Good evening, everyone. Shall we get started?
Please.
Sure. It is 7:02, and I call this meeting of ANC 1C's Planning, Zoning, and Transportation Committee meeting to order. I am Zach Gold, for those on the line who do not know, chair of this committee and commissioner representing SMD 1C05. We have 4 items on our agenda today. Why don't we get started with consideration of a resolution in support of traffic safety assessments at the intersection of Columbia Road and Connecticut Avenue and other intersections on the 1900 and 2000 block. Commissioner Irani, you brought this to our attention. Would you have the floor to lead the discussion?
Thank you, Commissioner Gold. So this was first brought to my attention by the chair of a neighboring ANC in Ward 2. And it was brought to her attention by a resident in her ANC. And really what what was troubling the resident was that they couldn't cross Connecticut from east to west safely. And so, they emailed their ANC commissioner. That commissioner realized that it was in our ANC. And so, I went down there and took a look at it, and really it led to a more holistic view of Columbia Road from that Y junction with Connecticut Avenue all the way down to where Columbia hits 19th Street. So that's about 1,200 feet. It's a pretty long section of the road, and there are no signals, no traffic signals, no stop signs, no traffic calming or other speed or safety mitigation features along those 1,200 feet. And that's pretty troubling, and it leads to unsafe crossing conditions, especially because I think it's all exacerbated by Connecticut Avenue from where this Y junction is. That's 3 northbound travel lanes there. And Connecticut Avenue itself, while it's 30 miles an hour over there, cars tend to go faster than that. And then when they go eastbound on Columbia from the junction in question, without any traffic calming measures or signals or stop signs or anything, there are approximately 5 crosswalks until there's a single stop sign. So having said all that, this really just led to the resolution you have before you that's requesting traffic calming measures of different kinds, all in the hope of leading to both a better quality of life and reducing the number of crashes that we've had since 2017, which is when I started on ANC 1C. We have had 4 recorded injuries to pedestrians along those blocks or within 50 feet of, and 2 recorded injuries to cyclists. And mind you, this is from DDOT's Vision Zero initiative, from their data. So these are the only recorded ones, only the recorded ones. Initially I thought I would have a traffic safety assessment questionnaire submitted by a resident. I haven't yet received that, though I do believe that's still coming. So in the first Be It Resolved, there's support for a traffic safety assessment. However, that's not here yet. But that is something that we can submit ourselves if it's not forthcoming. And then it doesn't stop us from requesting the other traffic calming measures in the other resolves. So yeah, there's that.
Well, thank you for that, Commissioner. I think that this raises a number of issues that are important for our neighborhood, right? We want people to visit our neighborhood. We recognize that Columbia Road is both a gateway to our neighborhood and also what DDOT considers as a minor arterial. But when people travel through our neighborhood, we want them to do so safely. And I appreciate your point that we can, frankly, we could submit our own safety assessment with a number of the ideas that you put here in this resolution. 2 things worth mentioning, and I saw that Kristen Barden noted that the very beginning of this section is the end part of the Connecticut Avenue Deckover project. I cannot now recall if the prior ANC approved a resolution, or if you as chair wrote a letter regarding our perspectives on the part of that project that touch our jurisdiction. So certainly it'd be helpful to renew that language in this one, as we noted in whatever resolution or in whatever letter. Um, I think this project, the deck over project, is still some time off, and we obviously want improvements immediately. But I think reminding them that this area is both of interest to them and to us would be important.
Yeah.
Similarly, I think that, um, obviously there are benefits to people riding bicycles and scooters of our call for a protected bike lane on Columbia Road. But there's also benefits to pedestrians in the sense that it has the potential to narrow crossing space. And so maybe there might be some use in referring to that as well. Again, those both are longer term fixes. But I completely agree with you, and I would even in this resolution call for putting a hawk signal specifically at the California Street crossing in front of the Hilton, right?
Mhm.
Because in the resolution it sort of says there should be hawk signals, and there should. But I think that specifically is a real good point, because essentially these drivers are exiting what to them is a highway onto our Columbia Road.
So that's I left that open ended because I wasn't quite sure where I thought that could use more discussion. So I want to talk about a couple points, right? Where that should go, the hawk signal should go, if that should be at that point that you just mentioned, or maybe further along over near the next crosswalk after after that set would be at 20th and Connecticut. And that's sort of like kind of much further closer to a lot of residences and apartment buildings, and maybe would produce more pedestrians there and also slow down traffic coming off of the goal still being the same, to slow down traffic, just to deem where that hawk signal is most appropriate.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I don't know. I think I mentioned this to you in about this resolution. I don't know if DDOT has like a sign that they use right when people are exiting the tunnels 295 into the city streets. Is there like a flashing light, like entering local road, or some sort of sign that it doesn't need to be a hawk signal, but simply or even a one of those speed limit signs that shows how fast you're going and what the speed limit is, so
Yeah.
that when you're exiting Connecticut Avenue onto Columbia Road, right? Because it's not a turn; it is essentially an exit.
Yeah, exactly. It really, the way that Y junction is, and the way it's uphill, the way the exit onto Columbia is sort of uphill, and the lack of signals, I think just all lends to speeding further than the Connecticut Avenue speed limit of 30, rather than slowing down. And Connecticut Avenue has it's a 20% higher speed limit, triple the number of travel lanes than Columbia. So we need to give some sort of both signage and something to get people to actually slow down while they go through our residential neighborhood. So
I appreciate that.
um,
Yeah, go ahead.
the pedestrian improvements do not include the area. They include up to that Y junction, but they don't include 20th and Columbia or over further east to 19th.
Correct. And as I seem to recall, and I could look this up, but we're in the middle of a conversation. But in the deck over project, the protected bicycle infrastructure ends almost right before California Street. And I think that we had talked about this ANC asking for that to go a little further, because the way that it was set up, it almost dumps out people on bicycles traveling uphill with these merging vehicles coming off of Connecticut Avenue. And by having that protection go even a little further, and of course, our goal is for it to go, all the way up Columbia, but at least in the immediate term of the deck over project, to sort of go up almost closer to towards 20th.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's really to connect what is the deck over project and those improvements to Columbia Road, which is perfectly in line with the past resolutions that were supported by our ANC in terms of connecting the bicycle infrastructure. And this just kind of protects, this supports the addition of pedestrian infrastructure along the same corridor.
Right, right. Commissioner Faulkner, do you have any thoughts or questions?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, this makes a lot of sense to me. I certainly have experienced, cars driving very fast at that intersection when walking around. And I certainly, I think it makes sense to make sure that we're not just the deck, whatever improvements they make to the deck over project, it should definitely continue through that section of Columbia Road. So I think this all makes sense to me. So.
Thanks, Commissioner Faulkner. Also, I just also want to point out that there are lots of destinations, pedestrian producing destinations, to use transportation jargon, like schools. I mean, there's Oyster Adams, there's 3 parks, a couple of pocket parks, Triangle Parks, Calhoun Park, 3 bus stops, a bike share station, all along this this stretch of Columbia Road.
So I know, for example, that DDOT hosts or positions a traffic safety officer on Columbia Road at Calorama during morning rush hours. I guess it's at Calorama and at 19th. Right, 19th. I guess it's that's a person helping to the children cross the street. Is that? Are you familiar with that? Because I see the people there, but I don't know what their assignment is.
Yeah, that's right. There's a crossing guard there during the morning and evening rush hours, or just before the rush hour. So when the children are let out and when school is getting back into session in the morning session. So that's just at 19th and Columbia. And that's the location of that first stop sign, which is 1,200 feet from the last signal, the last traffic signal.
Right, and I often don't. I mean, that's the one place that drivers and bicyclists and pedestrians are usually cautious because it's a 4-way stop. And so at least they are slowed down. And so I appreciate that effort by the DDOT officer. And I don't think that DDOT should necessarily place someone where there aren't any traffic calming measures, because that could be dangerous for that individual. But that's almost like the least concerning location.
Yeah. I mean, it's it would be without that person. I mean, I think having that person there attests to the fact of the number of pedestrians crossing there, and we need more than just that. As you travel along Columbia, you'll see that there's really, out of all those crosswalks, there's one of the flex posts, pedestrian indicators in the middle of Columbia, a single one out of those 5 crosswalks. And there's also just one sign indicating pedestrian crossing out of those 5 that's in the planted on the sidewalk. So, and a lot of the paint on those crosswalks is fading. There are just simple improvements that can be made, even down where the Connecticut Avenue deck over project, streetscape project extends, where it extends to those couple of crosswalks by the Y junction. There are simple improvements that can be made in the meantime. And then, of course, as we have come to know and discuss, it doesn't extend further up Columbia Road.
Right, and just for your awareness, couple months ago, someone from DDOT tweeted out that it was almost painting season, so get in your 311 requests for road paintings. And I am certain that I went up and down Columbia Road and that some of those crosswalks were in my list, because I agree with you that some of them have faded a bit. Commissioner Clem, I see that you're on the line. Do you have any thoughts or questions about this?
No, I agree that I think it's a challenge to cross over Connecticut Avenue, and I think it is definitely a safety issue. I think obviously at the Hilton it's a little bit easier, but up closer to the bus stop it's very dangerous. And so yeah, I agree that I agree that I don't have anything else to say except I think it's a good resolution.
Other commissioners or members of the public, if you can, members of the public can raise your hands, or I see Gordon, Commissioner Bowles is on the line if you want to promote him. But if anyone else would like to say anything on this, or if it is a good idea and you have nothing to say, or if it's a good idea and you have something to say, that's also acceptable. Yes, Richard, you are, you can unmute yourself.
Yes, hi. I just want to agree with it. I think it's a very good idea to improve that area. I don't think it has to be a drastic change. I think I typed in the text line here in the chat, just roadway crossing, the flex signs at every single crosswalk is a given. That needs to be done. Better signage. And, you know, we're paying the police to enforce the traffic laws, and they need to be utilized. You know, a better police presence on that block, at least for a month or two, would get the word out to motorists. I'm a motorist and a cyclist and also a pedestrian. So that's just where I'm coming from. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Commissioner Clem.
Sorry about that. And when I was going over this resolution, the other thing that, and I'm not saying, I'm not suggesting anything for DDOT necessarily, but in terms of this resolution, the other thing that I thought might be a consideration, because you are going up a hill and it's sort of, when you do turn on Columbia, it's a little bit blind, and that crosswalk can be easily missed, especially if you're new to the area. And then I thought maybe rumble strips could be, I don't know if that's the type of thing where you would want to add that to the resolution or if DDOT would come up with it, but I thought rumble strips is the type of thing where people would then, you know, be knowing that there's something coming up that they have to look. And the designs for the overdecking project, and it goes up to California, and it looks like they're going to add the crosswalk to the little island. So the crosswalk will be a way to, I can share that if you want.
Yeah, just at that junction, right, with that the McClellan statue.
It looks, I'll share the slide deck. It looks like it's going to be the little triangle that actually creates a slip lane for the cars coming up and who want to take a left on California. So in between McClellan and Columbia, there's a little teeny triangle that would then serve as a interim crossing point for the pedestrians.
Yeah.
Oh, so moving that, moving the pedestrian crossing further to the northeast so that it's not, so it's almost more visible to a driver.
And safer, because if you're crossing, then you just can jump into the little island and then, yeah, yeah. I'll share the slide deck.
Commissioner Arana, you see the notes from Kristen Barden about the.
Yeah, I just added, you know, thanks, Kristen. I added Anne Hargrove. I added the first names of the people whom the parks are named after. So that's Anne Hargrove and Carolyn Laurenti.
Great. The phone calling in from 815. You can unmute.
It's *6 to unmute yourself.
If you are speaking, oh, go ahead again. I think you might have just muted yourself. So,
Okay, can you hear me now?
yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good evening, everyone. How you doing?
I'm sorry, could you
And
speak a little more clearly, please?
I was saying good afternoon. My name is Sweet Slabamba with Seasoned Settlers, and I was actually invited um chime in on you guys safety I guess common initiatives. And the young lady who spoke before me about the rumble strips was an awesome idea, but I was wondering, were you guys possibly interested in bringing an arts crosswalk as part of the traffic calming initiative to you guys' area?
Well, thank you, Sweets, and we're looking forward to hearing from you later in the meeting. I don't think that, as much as I like the idea of art in the streets, I don't know if it makes a ton of sense at this intersection, given that it's more of a residential space than a hanging out space, right? The crosswalk that is most concerning to me is essentially a race line for drivers, and I know that some people obviously do cross there, as a neighbor reached out to Commissioner Arani, but I don't think it's a well traveled space versus some of our other intersections.
Okay.
I do
Okay.
appreciate
Cool.
that.
Cool. Cool.
I do appreciate that point.
Okay. Okay. Well, you
Yes,
mention that I'll speak later on, so I'll be ready to circle back when it's time for me to speak about the benefits of actually bringing an arts and fees crosswalk to the area, where it can definitely benefit not only your pedestrians but your cyclists, your motorists, benefit everyone in the community. So I thank you for allowing me to connect.
perfect. So we have you on it as our fourth item on the agenda, and we're looking forward to that. So thank you for letting me know you're here.
Sounds groovy.
So Commissioner Arani, do you want to discuss or settle any particular language, or do you have other um, are you ready to sort of put this on the agenda, or rather put this for a vote?
And this isn't something, I mean, if there are a couple of things that come to mind. One of them we briefly talked about, that's the location of the hawk. Right now, it's intentionally somewhat vague by saying the 1900 to 2000 blocks. If there's, we don't have to come up with an answer in the next couple of minutes, but we could just leave it as is, and then think about that and receive additional feedback and be able to pass this at the full ANC meeting on the first Wednesday in May. That, and if any other suggestions, perhaps art in the crosswalks, in one of those crosswalks, or anything else comes up. So I'm prepared to move this right now, and then we can leave amendments for the May meeting.
Great. Yeah, I completely agree that there should be at least one hawk here and some sort of flashing, "This is a residential street" sign at that Y junction, whether that's a hawk or some other sort of signal. So I'm really happy you brought this to our attention. And now I'll ask if there is, or I guess I will make a motion to vote on this and ask if there is a second to vote on the resolution for a traffic safety assessment at the 19 and 2000 blocks of Columbia Road. Is there a second?
Second.
Perfect. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None opposed. Okay, great. Well, then that passes.
Thank you, Commissioner Gold. Thank you, Commissioner Faulkner. And especially thanks, Commissioner Clem. I do see in the chat you dropped the project update for the Connecticut Avenue deck over And I saw on slide 21, I think it's 20 or 21, how it includes the Y junction, but doesn't go further onto Columbia Road. But yeah, I appreciate that. So thank you all.
Yeah, and making sure that we direct this, as was noted by Kristen, to the streetscape folks, right? Obviously, there are parts of our desire, of our demand, that are not part of the streetscape, but certainly we've previously voiced concerns or thoughts about the streetscapes project, and we want to make sure that we are continuing to build on those thoughts, because it is a great project, but it's a long-term project. I think it will be a great way to connect DuPont to our to the east side, or excuse me, the west side of Athens, Morgan, and we want to make sure that it does so in a safe and equitable way. Cool. Moving along, the next item on our agenda is a discussion of a contraflow bicycle lane through Lanier Heights. In February, ANC1C passed a resolution calling on DDOT to study and implement protected bike lanes on Columbia Road through our neighborhood. Columbia Road is an important connection to DDOT's bicycle network. It's also home to many of us and to many fantastic businesses that people are riding bikes and scooters to and want to be able to access safely. I personally would prefer that these bike lanes be installed, it would already exist, but even under ideal conditions, it's going to take time. And until that happens, right, as long as there are paint-only bicycle lanes, and even not that in some parts of Columbia Road, it is not comfortable for many people who are riding bikes. To that end, I have long heard from bike commuters and seen for myself that some route instead through Lanier Heights to bypass the 1600 and 1700 blocks of Columbia Road by riding along Argonne Place and Lanier Place. Now, as those familiar know, the Argonne Place is a one-way street, as is a one-way street eastbound, and Lanier Place on the 1700 block is a one-way street westbound. So for the many who take this cut through in both directions, essentially they are riding against traffic at the west end of Lanier and at the east end, or on the entire part of Argonne if they're traveling to the west. That was probably a little more confusing than it needed to be. For those not familiar, I think most people on the line are, but for those not familiar, a contraflow bike lane is essentially a painted lane on a roadway that signals that while the roadway may be one way, bicyclists may and will be traveling in the other direction. In our neighborhood, an example of this is Champlain between Florida Avenue and Calorama Road. But I think that what we are more thinking of is something like the New Hampshire Avenue south of our jurisdiction between U Street and T Street, which has sort of a double yellow line and a very small, right, it's a normal sized car lane, a double yellow line the size of a bike lane. And that's with bike directional signals. And so a contraflow lane does not remove parking. It does not place any sort of protection or infrastructure. And as such, it is significantly less preferable than a protected bike lane. But we've heard that it might be possible to implement something like this painting season. That is, put these in this year on Argonne Place and potentially at the west end of Lanier Place. And that would allow bicyclists who are, some of whom are already making this maneuver, to at least be known to drivers coming through that this is something that is happening. And I think that's my spiel about it. Commissioners, do you have any thoughts that you'd like to share?
I can share just because Lanier, or at least the north side of that block of Lanier, is in my is in 1CO4. I reached out to constituents to see if people had any thoughts, and generally people, including several folks who live on Lanier and bike, seem to be very supportive. It sounds like a lot of people are already using this, as I think we know or have seen. And so I think a lot of people feel like it would make them feel safer doing that if they knew that there was something signaling to drivers that bikers are, that cyclists are likely to be going in that direction. So I think, a lot of people sort of said, I would prefer a protected bike lane on Columbia, but since this seems like it would go faster, it seems like a good alternative. Yeah, that I just wanted to add that I think we initially had talked about Argonne, and the question was of Lanier. And as I think some people have flagged that, Argonne does curve and maybe feels a little more dangerous at points. Lanier is, a straight shot on that one block. And so is I think also that seems like one that people use very frequently already.
Commissioner Ronnie?
I think it's a good idea to implement. Certainly isn't a substitute for protected bike lanes on Columbia, as many residents and commissioners, including Commissioner Faulkner, just mentioned. But I think it's something we can do now rather than later. Let's do it.
Other commissioners?
Yeah, hi, Zach. Commissioner Gold. Yeah, so I think that this is a good alternative. I worry about safety. I don't know really how you would, I mean, I'm assuming that that a bike lane requires 3 feet. And that, of course, is the major road for the engine company, the fire station on Lanier. And so I can't imagine, I mean, you'd have to give, like, I don't know how it would work, but I'm just saying that you can't be thinking that a ladder company is going to be able to navigate that road if there's a contraflow lane. And then Argonne for, I know what you're saying, and I think it's a great idea. I don't know how it would work, but I think it's a great idea. Argonne worries me because if you're coming south on Argonne, people do tend to drive quite quickly up Argonne, and it's weird, and it's a blind turn. And so there's just a number of safety considerations that I had in this discussion.
I appreciate that. And I think, just one thing to think about with the Engine 21, first of all, fortunately, they are not riding down the street all hours of the day, right? When there's an emergency, and they head out. And I think I should hope, and I would expect that anyone riding in that contraflow lane when the engine starts coming down the street will certainly move out of the way, as any driver would do in a vehicle. Right? It's for in the rare instances when that would happen, I do not foresee a conflict, but I agree with you that we should engage with FEMS and ask their thoughts on that, as well as do some sort of measurement of the street to see if there is enough space. I think you raise good points, and you also raise good points about Argonne Place, which is a concern of mine as well. As someone who I drive very rarely, and when I do drive, I tend to drive up Argonne Place. And as someone who is not used to driving, it is a weird place to be. And certainly I have been there when people are walking in the street, or a bicyclist is coming down the other way, or a delivery truck is parked, double parked at a place. And so I hear you on that. Commissioner Bowles.
Good evening. Thank you so much, committee, for bringing this up. So to Commissioner Faulkner's points, I also reached out to some folks on Lanier, And it's pretty much the same type of feedback for short term. This is a good option, and probably long term. I mean, realistically, people are going to probably still continue to use this as a contraflow lane. So I would much rather drivers be aware and also give us this short term option in the meantime. I will say I think that we might possibly I think we should probably do a little bit more research, or not research, outreach. I think there's a few listservs in Lanier Heights specifically that would probably be most interested in these potential changes. But I think that the folks that have lived in the neighborhood and understand what's going on the most realize that this is, a good and sustainable option, even for long-term purposes. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. That is a really smart idea, and I will take it for action to reach out to the listserv for Lanier Heights, and see as well what my neighbors have to say. I know, as I've heard from some who live down your end of the block, who when they come from the east, they might admit to going down Argonne Place the wrong way, but certainly I haven't spoken to everyone, and more outreach that we can do simply to raise awareness of the potential is definitely for the better. Other commissioner comments, and if not, any members of the public who want to raise their hand are welcome to raise their hand. Sure. Richard, go ahead. You can unmute yourself.
Yes, I live on that weird place to be, Argonne Place, and and thank you for saying that you're not a frequent driver, because that really helps me give some feedback. I've lived on Argonne Place for 18 years, and I'm concerned. I'll just go right out and say it. I'm very much against the protected bike lanes on Columbia Road for other reasons. We don't have to get into that yet. But this is an interesting alternative. I'm not totally against it. I can tell you that there have been bicyclists struck on Argonne Place. One of them was struck by my neighbor, and they were riding the wrong way on a one-way street and very close to the cars. Now, there's parking on both sides of this street. The parking is extremely limited and very, very difficult to get a spot. There is frequently delivery trucks to the Chalfont building, which is on the north side of the street. So if you're going to proceed with this, I would definitely do more research, and I would also stress, I don't think you want to put these lanes on the north side of Argonne Place. Lanier is probably not as much of an issue, although it is very tight. Cars frequently have to stop just because someone's dropping off an Uber or whatever. A passenger. So I think it's going to be problematic to have these lanes. Is there a number that expresses the width of these two lanes that you're proposing?
My assumption, and again, I would have to reach out to DDOT about this, but I think that a contraflow lane would likely be 3 to 4 feet wide, which would require there to be 10 to 12 feet of travel space. I think it's normally it is, I believe 10 feet is required, but given that there is engine 21 there, they might have more. So I would certainly look into those, and we do not want to be proposing unsafe infrastructure. That is for sure.
Yeah, I would just say that, definitely I would stay away from the north side of Argonne Place. That's where most of the deliveries are, and that's where you were mentioning the blind turn. That's where the blind turn is. As far as Lanier goes, I think it's common sense for any cyclist or driver to get out of the way of a fire truck or ambulance. I don't think that's too much of a concern, but I definitely would would poll the neighborhood. I am very much against people using Argonne Place as in cars that cut through. People have apps, particularly I think a lot of commuters that live in Maryland have apps like Waze that tell them to go on Argonne Place. So every day, every weekday, there's 1 or 2 quite loud traffic jams on Argonne Place because someone is timid about going around a truck or that's delivering, or a truck is not actually blocking the way, but or actually is actually blocking the way, and it causes these like 5-car traffic jams with everybody leaning on their horns, and it's really a pain. So in the sense that these bike lanes would maybe help minimize that motorist traffic on our street, I'm kind of just pointing that out. It might be a very positive thing about this, but if it was done properly.
Yeah, just sorry, Richard. Just so you're aware, when I was in your position, just a neighbor and not a commissioner, I spoke to former Commissioner Dendy about whether or not we should ban the left onto Quarry Road from Columbia Road as a way to stop that cut through traffic, because I 100% agree with you, is that even though I do not drive often, I am regularly through the neighborhood and see those drivers rushing through Lanier Heights and trying to use Argonne Place as a way to beat the terrible light at Columbia and Harvard. So I appreciate that I'm not the only one that recognizes that exists and that it's a problem.
Thank you.
Yeah, David, go ahead.
Hello, commissioners. Thank you for raising the issue. Some of you have seen I think you have seen an email that I sent on it, where I noted this is one of the, just about the only bike facility that I'd be cautious about. And it's been interesting. I'd summarize what I've found out as apparently the literature on contraflow lanes is very generally quite positive, slightly positive for safety. And UK government is currently asking its local jurisdictions to treat them to add them by default to all one-way streets, unless there's a good reason not to, which is interesting. Gordon mentioned this in the chat. I just pulled up the DDOT street segment data, and it does, and which matches what he said, but their Argonne is actually 30 feet, as Gordon notes. Excuse me, Lanier is actually 32 feet. Argonne is 30. Argonne, I think I would be interested in hearing what the DDOT engineers have to say. It's a tricky spot that would require engineering judgment. I would want to float the possibility of routing people down Harvard for half a block as possibly a route that has fewer conflicts. Lanier, I think Lanier in profile, it looks a lot like the Woodley Place bike lanes, just over the other side of Rock Creek. And Woodley Place is actually a good bit narrower curb to curb.
I recently discovered Woodley Place. I've been going a lot to support restaurants up in Cleveland Park and Woodley Park, and I'm the type of person who bicycles on Connecticut Avenue, but most people are not, which of course is why many folks are in favor of bicycle lanes on Connecticut Avenue. But I learned that I could use Woodley Place as a cut through, and downhill, that is a great cut through. Sorry to interrupt you, David.
You're not interrupting me. I think I'm interested to hear what happens. I think that it is always going to be a useful facility. The other parallel in the city that I draw attention to is maybe the H Street circumstance, where this backstory behind H Street is that DDOT was concerned about streetcar tracks and bicyclists getting their wheels caught in the track, which has resulted in at least one death. And as an alternative, DDOT created two bike boulevards north and south of H, one eastbound, one westbound, and it just doesn't. They've been helpful, but they haven't eliminated the draw of H Street proper. I think that's about all that I've got to offer today. So
I really appreciate that parallel. Again, I have a bike comfort that others don't. And even I, more often than not recently, have been riding on Euclid instead of on Columbia when I'm coming eastbound, simply because Columbia is so uncomfortable to ride on for me, an experienced bike rider. But I completely agree, and I think you've heard from every commissioner on here that we do not see this option as a alternative or a different plan than Columbia Road. And we would, when I write this resolution, I'm going to be very clear about that, because Columbia Road is our priority, but even under the best of circumstances, it will be a number of years before it is safe to ride bicycles on, or scooters for that matter, without being on the sidewalk. Commissioners, one of the things that I'm thinking of, and I know we don't have a resolution before us, and so I want to. I don't want to go on for too long unless we have other thoughts, but one of the things I'm thinking is that perhaps we should have a resolution that calls for a contraflow lane on Lanier and the study of a contraflow lane on Argonne Place. I do agree with both Richard and David that Argonne is not as cut and dried. I also think, that people do it isn't necessarily a good reason to implement it. And I do agree that people do it because there is a slight hill from Harvard up Lanier to roughly the intersection of Argonne Place. It is not fun to ride uphill. I certainly know that. But I think just because it's not fun doesn't mean that we should implement infrastructure that is unsafe if DDOT doesn't think it's safe. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense to me. And I also think just mentioning that David's suggestion, which I think is maybe something we'd want to include in talking about studying the Argonne Place segment, is, whether it makes sense to do some sort of signage or something if Argonne, if that isn't feasible for whatever reason.
You could have some sort of signage like, I guess what's the next big thing would be this way to, gosh, I'm blanking on the park by you, Megan.
Oh, Walter Pierce.
Right, Walter Pierce this way. And so, Zoo go down this way, Walter Pierce go this way. I think there should be signs to Walter Pierce, even if I can't remember the name of it. Okay, so I think there's nothing to vote on, but I guess what is the language I should use, Commissioner Arani, to get support for placing this on the, I guess, let's take a vote to place this on the agenda for the ANC 1C monthly meeting in May.
It'll be a resolution, right?
There will be a resolution.
Yeah, okay.
Do I have a second to place that?
Yes. Should we place it on the agenda without a resolution, or should we, I guess I don't know the.
Oh, sorry. So I will, that's a good question. My intention is to write an agenda and have that, to write a resolution and have that resolution on the agenda without deference from the committee.
Without a recommendation.
Without a recommendation from the committee.
Yep. So this places it on the agenda. Yes.
Okay.
So, Megan, did you second?
Yes, I seconded.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi. Okay, so this will be, I will write a resolution that will give me something to do this weekend. And we can talk about it beforehand, and other commissioners as well. And this will be on the agenda. Thank you, commissioners, and thank you, members of the public for weighing in. I really appreciate it. And think we had great thoughts. Let's see. Gosh, yeah. Thank you, Kristen, for that note. The next item on our agenda is about the RCNA painting their bike corrals. This resolution came from Commissioner Clem. Commissioner Clem, would you like to present your resolution to the committee?
Thank you, Commissioner Gold. The Reed Cook Neighborhood Association, part of its mission is to help beautify Reed Cook neighborhood. And there are 3 corrals for scooters and bikes in the Reed Cook Neighborhood Association. I mean, the Reed Cook neighborhood. One is in front of WABA, one is in front of Lee Liquors near Unity Park, and one is in front of the Harris Teeter. The Reed Cook Neighborhood Association has voted on and supports, financially supports painting these corrals. They contracted with the Quinto Gallery, who designed 3 distinct designs for each of those corrals. And I'm just hoping that the ANC will support this resolution that DDOT requires an ANC to support the painting of the corrals. I spoke to the president of the Reed Cook Neighborhood Association the other day, and they are also prepared to support, the upkeep of the corrals. I've posted the resolution in the chat.
Thank you for that, Commissioner. I love these designs. I just, for the commissioners and the community to be aware, the guidelines for painting the corrals say that the sponsoring agency, and in this case the ANC is the sponsoring agency, are responsible for maintenance and upkeep of the paint. And so that's why, working with Commissioner Clem, I thought that it would be good if we specified, had an agreement with the RCNA that they're responsible, because even though we are sort of the agent for DDOT, we don't want that responsibility. I think this was so the question that I had previously, and I think the question that Kristen Barden asks, are you familiar with the process in that, right? So DDOT has templates. I believe that they have approved non-template art before, but I don't know that to be true, and I don't know what the process is. So I'm not sure, Commissioner Clem, if you or if someone else from the RCNA has run those by DDOT already, and sort of it needs our approval of a exception, but
Yes, I talked to some people at RCNA, and I talked to Commissioner Bowles, and my understanding is that if the ANC approves the designs, we can at least appeal to DDOT that the designs were approved. And if DDOT, I think that if DDOT doesn't like the designs, then we can, figure that out. But my understanding is that in the resolution, there's wording that says that the ANC supports the designs, but also that that the ANC is also accepting the designs as we submitted them. So I think that goes to the presentation to DDOT, and if they don't like the designs, then I guess that negates the resolution.
Yeah, it's quite possible that, and I can introduce you to Kim, but that this might, even though you're painting a corral, right? They have very specific rules for corrals, but they have less specific rules for other art projects. So you might need to submit this as art project other, not art project bike corral, even though it is a bike corral. Another question I had, and again, this must be known, DDOT does this, but is the corral removed during the painting? You know, how, what is the process, or, you know, how long does it take? How long is the bike corral out of commission? Are you familiar with that?
It would take several days because you have to layer the paint. You're essentially using what's kind of like porch paint, I call it, but I don't know what the official term is. But porch paint takes a lot of time to dry. So, and you have to layer on the paint. And so these designs are relatively complicated. So they also have to be, you have to do several layers. So I would think that it would be 3 to 5 days. If you would like, I would be more than happy to get you an exact timeline for each of these corrals to be painted.
No, I was just trying to sort of understand the process, right? If you know, it's almost like when you get a parking permit or one of those no parking permits from DDOT, that you'll have to place a sign on the corral for bicyclists and scooter folk to know, hey, don't park here on these days because we're going to be removing it, and we'll remove this corral with your bike on it, sort of. Yeah, other commissioners, you have questions? None, it seems. All right. And any members of the public? David, is your hand still up from the last? Nope. Okay, good. Commissioner Bowles, did you want to weigh in here, or just like having the attention of your hand up?
I'm an attention seeker, sorry.
Okay, cool. I like it. No. That's all right. You wouldn't be here if you weren't. Okay, cool. So if there are no other questions, I move for a vote. Is there a second?
A second.
Okay. Any other, sorry, all in favor of this resolution to support our CNA painting their scooter corrals, please say aye.
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 Aye. All right, that's unanimous. Thank you, Commissioner Clem. This was a well-written resolution, and I am really looking forward to seeing more art in our neighborhood. Just yesterday on an email, I referred to the only art on our streets as the businesses on 18th Street, essentially turning DDOT's Jersey barriers into West Berlin. I thought it was funny. Anyway, you're all muted. That's why you're not laughing out loud. I get it. You're welcome, Nick. Lastly, and speaking of art, I am really glad that we have Sweets with us tonight. Sweets, you are able to unmute yourself again, and you please tell us about your organization, Seasoned Settlers, and about some of your what you're looking to do in the neighborhood. We're looking forward to it. I think you have to hit *9 to unmute.
*6.
*6. I apologize. Go ahead. Oh, shoot, I just muted you again. That was entirely my fault. All right, now you have to hit *6 again. Sweets, please hit *6.
All right.
Okay, there you go. Good. Sorry about that. That was my fault entirely.
I did. Hello.
Hi, go ahead.
Hey, okay. Well, thank you again for that introduction. And I do apologize for with the whole mix up. But yeah, so again, my name is Sweets Labamba, and I'm with the organization Seasoned Settlers, where we provide inclusive recreational programming with the focus on improving neighborhood safety and injury prevention. And connecting with Mr. Go, he had invited me to on this whole meeting discussion with you all, and I appreciate everyone's views and perspectives of how they definitely want to improve the safety of the entire Columbia Road and surrounding areas. And with that being said, a little bit about us. Yeah, like we focused on improving neighborhood safety. And back in August of 2018, I've become really connected with that particular area where I noticed the particular intersection of 17th and Columbia Road definitely is a high traffic area, as well as pedestrians crossing, cyclists, going up and down the roadways. And so being at that particular space, I've literally watched a lot of near misses, fender benders, and actually my vehicle was hit twice, not one time, but two times at that particular crossing. And so there's like a number of reasons why, things happen, of course, due to, distracted driving, drivers aren't cautious and speeding. But I was wanting to definitely, connect with you all to see if the possibility that we can place a traffic calming initiative through an arts infused crosswalk up there, where not only where everyone will benefit from it, and of course with that whole campaign, it'll reduce the possibility of the collisions. It'll improve both the pedestrian, cyclists, and it'll just improve the flow of everything. Of course, with the neighboring school of Cook, the band field, you got your corner store, you got your rehabilitation center, you even got Sarah's Circle, like all of those in that particular hub where I witnessed residents, from morning to the evening pass continuously on that particular street that would definitely benefit from that particular traffic calming measure, especially our seniors and our friends that revisit the rehabilitation sites nearby. So after I had brought up that whole that idea, that concept, I wanted to definitely possibly see about you guys' response on that and see how we can definitely come to creative terms to creatively collaborate on placing an arts crosswalk for the residents of that particular area.
Thank you very much, Sweets. I want to make a few clarifications for the committee and for the commission. So I know that you have engaged with an artist. Are you seeking funding for this work from the ANC, or simply you're hoping that the ANC will support artwork in our neighborhood?
Approval from both. As of now, me and the artist have not discussed any type of figures or anything. I just wanted to see, just to check the temperature of you guys' interest, or you guys' interest of this whole entire concept. Like I said, we have not discussed any type of numbers or figures. That'll be at a later date. But right now, we would just like, just to see if you guys' approval, and if this was something that you guys can support financially as well.
So two things on that. One is that the ANC has a separate grants process, and I would be
Mm-hmm.
happy to introduce you to the commissioner who chairs the committee that oversees our grants. That is separate from this committee, although of course the whole commission would take a look and approve. I think. Sorry, I was looking at a note. And then I know that you have a meeting coming up with the artists. Have you put in any thought to sort of what this will look like, or right? I think we're in a challenging position in that, broadly speaking, I personally support art in the roadways, but as a commissioner, and I think as a committee, we wouldn't want to approve something without sort of knowing what it will look like. On the other hand, I know that you need to sort of have the approval to engage with the artist to make what it looks like. So I don't know if you have any.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello? Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. It sounded like it was cut off. So to answer your question, the artist will, provide some type of renders, and some type of pre-sketches beforehand. So, as of now, I don't have any type of artistic roadmaps to which we can do, but the artist did say, like many of his installations, he seeks community support, and so I think this will be a great initiative to bridge the community, especially families and the students of Cook Elementary, to come up with a cool concept that will definitely still pass, DDOT, regulations, and still, have everything basically past regulations where we would not be stepping out of bounds. So nothing too abstract that'll distract people from the whole entire message of slowing down. And this is a crosswalk where we want you guys to be necessarily just aware of the pedestrians that are utilizing this particular area. So as of now, we have not, created no type of sketches, but that will be something that we will be moving forward discussing in our upcoming session meeting.
Other committee members or their questions? Yes, Commissioner Ryan.
Thank you, Commissioner Gold. Thanks for attending the meeting. This is I love the concept. I like that it can be done cheaply, and that it can call attention to crosswalks and such. I mean, the immediate thing that comes to my mind, a couple things come to my mind, but all of it is sort of pending what DDOT would approve. So if you could bring some, maybe a one pager or something that would show some kind of guidelines or what DDOT would approve, but having qualified my statement, I would really love this along Columbia Road, exactly in those areas that I was talking about earlier on the first item on our agenda. There are certain parts of Columbia Road that are very, very wide to cross and super long crosswalks without a lot of visibility. So, I could see painted bump outs or bulb outs, that'd be like, an easy way, without pouring concrete and a lot of infrastructure changes, to just call attention to areas. So, thanks for coming on, but please take that kind of feedback back to DDOT and let us know if painted bulb outs, bright colors, of course, tastefully done, but those kinds of things could be done along Columbia Road.
Yeah, I thank you for that, Commissioner. I was able to pass to Sweets the guidelines from DDOT, and I'm happy to share those with the other members of this committee as well. There are federal guidelines regarding paint, specifically in crosswalks. So one way that DDOT has gotten around this, and you've likely seen it on 17th Street down in DuPont Logan Circle, is that instead of painting in the crosswalk, they paint alongside the crosswalk. So it's still bright rainbow colors to draw attention to the crosswalk, but the crosswalk itself is still the nationally approved white. Perhaps we should all go for bike rides with Secretary Mayor Pete and convince him that this policy should change and that we should have our rainbow crosswalks. But I think that's a really good point on other parts of Columbia Road, and especially if we are asking, if we would like to see bulb outs, right? You could almost use art to overflow the greeneries of those parks onto the streetway to create sort of an effect. I'm using my talented mind on that one.
Yeah, I could see the, you could keep the crosswalk, the plain white DOT approved, US DOT approved. But then, you have colorful bulb outs. That'd be nice.
Yeah, and then it matches the whole essence, the community of the whole corridor. And so just one of the actual artists who just painted something on a Tribune. She would be one of the artists that would definitely support it, and she was just giving like different perspectives of how you can safely create a arts infused crosswalk without messing up the whole white line. So there are many ways to get around that while still bringing the artist touch and still bringing the vibrancy and having everything connect. So I think it'll be a great touch.
Yeah.
Commissioner Faulkner?
Yeah, I think it sounds great. I'd be, certainly excited to see sort of renderings and proposals. And obviously, I think that one of the hurdles is both funding and making sure DDOT approves. But I think this sounds great, and I love the idea of drawing attention to the crosswalks this way. And I think I love the idea.
Other commissioners? Members of the public, raise your hand if you would like to comment. Okay, well, in the, I know you are not, you're calling in, Sweet, so you don't see, but I think you saw in the email I sent yesterday, the rough price that DDOT priced their 17th Street Rainbows paintings. I know they did that in-house, and I'm not sure if they are more expensive because it's in-house or less expensive because they're a government agency. But that might just be a number to help think about how much this project would cost. I think from moving forward, what I will say is that, again, we in the community are definitely interested in something like this, but we would need to, we need to be more involved in the process. And I think that I will look at when the artist sent that calendar invite. And so I will, as much as possible, be the point of our commission with you and with the artist so that we can move this forward to something that we as a commission can approve and get DDOT to support.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for the suggestion. As I said, more art is better, and I know the bid has some ideas for art on Columbia Road as well, and I'm looking forward to hearing about that project when it comes through. I don't know, not to put you on the spot, Kristen, but if you would like to say anything about sort of the way that you guys are thinking about it, and if not, then that's okay too. All right, you are allowed to talk.
Okay, sure. So yeah, we've been talking to DDOT about what it would cost to do the rainbow striping at 18th and Columbia and Adams Mill Road. Pretty much identical to what they did on 17th Street. And Steve Varga got us the prices that I put in the chat. So it's a little cost prohibitive, And so we've sort of taken a pause on that because we don't have the funding to do that. But, you know, I'd love to talk to the ANC more about that, and maybe we could partner and do it together with ANC funding and with some, you know, bid money, because I know we can't afford to do the whole thing, but maybe we could afford to do a part of it. We also have a little bit of money left over in the RMA that we have with DDOT that we used for the corrals that we installed. We don't have a lot of money left over, but maybe $3,000. So that, you know, that could be used for more corrals, or possibly, you know, towards the rainbow crosswalks. So, but we certainly don't have $21,000 for the installation. So, it's a pretty expensive project.
So I guess it's off topic, but with that money, how many more corrals could be installed?
They're about $1,000 each, so possibly 3. We have a little bit more than 3,000. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but each one is about $1,000.
And remind me, is there one currently near the Calorama Park?
I don't think so. The locations were all kind of
yeah.
they were all decided by DDOT.
Yeah, because that, I mean, again, obviously we'd have to work with DDOT, but I think potentially, and Commissioner Arani, you're more familiar with that side of the neighborhood, but I think that more bike parking over there, especially given how crowded the park has been, who knows, you know, people are probably locking their bikes up or not all over the place. So I could see the benefit of a corral there, or a corral, you know, closer to the to Mintwood and the restaurants in that area. Okay, well, that's definitely something for us to think about. And I'm glad. Yeah, I really like the corrals that have been put in. You know, the new, every time I see a bike locked to the new colorful bike racks next to my house, I get excited. So so you guys did good work with those, and if you have, you know, sort of not enough funding to do art, but enough funding to put in more corrals, we can think about that.
Yeah, right. And Brian's really been coordinating that whole project with DDOT for us. So I know we've installed everything that we've ordered. And I don't know if, I'd have to check with Brian to see if DDOT has approved additional locations or not. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I know we had the conversation that they, I thought they originally approved, but then in the end didn't approve having a corral on Unity Park right at the Hawk signal, right? And I guess they felt it was too dangerous there. And I guess my thinking was that the reason to have it is because it's too dangerous for pedestrians. But that's why I'm not a DOT employee.
Yeah, no, I know that was one of the ones that the ANC had identified, but yeah, DDOT ultimately did not approve that location.
Great. Well, everyone, thank you so much for the discussions tonight. I think this was a great meeting. I look forward to continuing the discussions that we started tonight, some of which will take place at our monthly meeting on the first Wednesday of May. And I will, Sweets, follow up with you to talk more about more art projects in the neighborhood. With that, everyone, good night.
Thank you.